I will appreciate your depth of wisdom in this, because this is a practical subject that is influencing and affecting a lot of us that are getting our hands into some things. I want to make something out of what we are doing. We want to build big things and want to be as big as you, and fulfill purpose. And fulfilling purpose involves, there's always a vision, and you know that to get to that vision, most times the step and the ladder we climb, getting to that vision are always goals. We set little goals, and accomplishing these goals lead us to the next stage. Accomplishing the next goal leads us to the next stage, where it gets brighter and brighter. And making this goal a reality is what a lot of us tend to struggle with, because it requires a lot. It requires a lot. And the first question that crossed my mind that we want to ask you is, how will I know that? How do we describe goal? How will I know that this is a goal, this is not a wish, this is not a fantasy? To what extent is there any characteristics, any property that is attached to the subject goal before we can define it as, oh, this is a goal, oh, no, you are not serious, this is just a fantasy, this is just a wish? Because I don't know if Elon Musk met someone and a friend and said, someday I want to go to the moon, I'm shooting for the moon. Probably some will have thought that you are just wishing. So what are the properties of a goal? How do you know that, oh, this is a goal? So I want you to help us address that as we move further in this subject, sir.
Okay. So generally speaking, goals are kind of milestones that helps you. They kind of help you to measure your progress in terms of achieving your overall objectives. All right. So if you want to go from point A to point B, there will be bus stops, right? That you can actually, or landmarks that you can, use to measure your progress, in terms of the overall destination you're trying to reach, and good goals, relevant goals have been characterized as being smart. You might have heard of the acronym SMART, that you have to be specific. If you say you want to achieve something, you must be able to define it specific enough to be clear, to be something you can easily point at. All right, that you can easily say, okay, this is it. So it's not something abstract, it's very specific. Secondly, it has to be measurable, right? Sometimes the the measure we're looking at is in terms of quantity. You should be able to quantify it, right? Some other times it's in terms of quality, but of course everything has to be measurable, such that you can tell the difference between when it is being attained and when it is not. Third is that it has to be achievable, right? Meaning that it has to be realistic. It's not something that is, above your pay grade or above normal, right? It's something that is possible within, not just within the means of what is available, within the means of what is possible. All right. Fourth, it has to be relevant to your overall pursuits, right? So if you're having a goal that is not relevant to your overall pursuit, by the time you are done attaining it, it has not helped you to make progress towards the outcomes that you are actually looking at. And lastly, it has to be time bound, right? Because we human beings, our lives are time bound, right? So it has to be measurable within time. Between so and so and so time, I will do this, right? And we'll be able to point to this. And so basically, these 5 things: specificity, measurability, achievability, relevance, and time, makes goals worth it. They make them worth pursuing.
No, thank you. You mentioned something about being achievable. So, how do I measure that this goal is achievable? Because now, what is achievable to you, due to the level at which you are right now, might not be achievable for me due to my resources and the level I am currently. So, do I set achievable goals, or do I call a goal achievable for me based on the resources that I have available, or based on what my imagination is saying? So, to what extent will I know that, oh, this goal is achievable? Is it because it's just what I see, or because my pocket or the resources I have within me or around me?
Well, we do not necessarily have to set goals based on our resources. Sometimes that is okay, all right. But if you really want to be audacious, if you really want to achieve really big things, then the goals you set must should go beyond what is available to what is possible. And I'm sure you've heard that parable of Jesus that says, which of you, if he wants to build a house, will not sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough. Otherwise, by the time he gets to a certain point and he's not able to carry on, God said that this man began to build and is not able to finish. But if Jesus thought the same way we interpret that parable, that you have to look at what you have or what's available, he would not have a goal to feed 5,000 men when those were not available. So it's not a question of what is available. He knew that it was possible. And the way I say it is that you set goals based on what you are willing to sacrifice, to do, to achieve it. That's it. All right. And it takes a lot of courage at times, right, to think that way. Okay, I want to, do this, do this, do this. The resources are not available at the moment, but is it possible? If the resources are available, okay, that's fine. Okay, so how do I get the resources? Is it possible that I can do extra work to get these resources? Or link up with someone who has these resources, maybe collaborate in certain ways. Yes, that's because if we were to set goals and if we were to dream basically just within what is available, we will not do much. And that's why I said we must be able to ask ourselves, what am I willing to pay the price for? Sometimes the price you need to pay is not just the financial resources, within your means. All right. Sometimes the price you need to pay is to build the right network. Sometimes the price you need to pay is to collaborate with the right person. Sometimes the price you need to pay is to put in much more effort in what you're currently doing. And many times when it involves the one that has to do with us having to put in the effort to work on ourselves, oftentimes you realize that not many people are willing to pay that price.
I had to jot down some important points there. Why do you think you relate to a lot of young guys? You have a lot of relationship with them. I can testify to that. So from your wealth of experience, I know you must have seen a lot of young guys start something and they crumble. A lot of them start something and they could not finish. From your wealth of experience, what would you say you noticed was occurring in almost everyone you encountered that made them either crumble or fail or struggle with what they are trying to achieve in terms of their probably career, if they are creatives, if they are entrepreneurs, probably ministry. Why do you think, what from your point of view, why do you think a lot of young guys struggle to build something big or get something big done?
So there are different reasons. I mean, there are different reasons. I don't even know where to start from to answer that question. For some people, One of the major reasons I have realized why people don't even dream big. They don't see themselves as being capable of doing big things, of achieving big things. It's a fundamental problem in their childhood. They weren't given the right atmosphere. They didn't grow up in the right atmosphere where their desires were constantly met. All right. So as babies, as children, there is a level of entitlement that is entitled to. Many people do not have. I mean, it's a privilege that they were not given. So normally when a child cries, when a child requests for something, we go ahead to meet it. All right, this is how we treat children. But oftentimes, many children didn't get that sense of, oh, you want this, okay, you can have it. You can have what you want. What it translates to in adulthood is that they think that they cannot achieve much. Even if they desire something, they cannot get it. So why push themselves? Do you get what I'm saying? So first and foremost, that's a that's a fundamental problem because for a lot of people, their self-esteem has not been built well enough. So low self-esteem is one reason why many people don't even dream big enough, right? It's one reason why people don't push themselves, and that's why I mean, much later this year, I'm going to be convening a conference tagged the Dreams and Dreamers Conference, Conclave, I mean, but that's a story for another day. I want to focus on why people don't, stay consistent with their goals. So that's one reason. Now, if they don't see themselves as being capable of doing it, maybe they start and they do it halfway, or they don't even dream at all, right? The other reason is a mindset. The mindset that some people only dream, but they never think of the price that comes with the dream. Just like Jesus said, if you want to build a house, you need to count the cost. Many people never really count the cost. I mean, I've been in such a situation before where I've had to shut down something I started because I really did not envisage that it was going to take so much from me. And of course, I had to do it. So for a while I have to pen something and focus on the other things that I know that I have to do in order to keep being able to, envision some other things, right? So that's another reason. Then the third reason is because they do not envision the price, what is going to cost. By the time they get in, they get weary, they get tired. They get tired. All right, and it's something I explained in my book, Wealth Without Capital, about what I call the digging phase. It starts out on any journey, whether it's, on any enterprise, whether it's a career you are building or a business you're building a platform, a social media following, and things like that. Initially, what is going to happen is that you're going to be putting in a whole lot of efforts, but you're getting little or no results. You see, many people walk away because they are not getting the kind of results that they expect to get at the time they want to have it. But it's just like when you're digging a well. When you're digging a well, what you're expecting to see is water, but what you're going to be seeing is sand. So you're trying to build a platform and people are throwing insults at you. You're trying to build a platform, you're not getting the kind of comments you want, you're not getting the kind of likes you want and things like that. It's a phase in the building process. But because many people don't realize that this is a phase in the building process and it's a normal phase, they are only looking at those who have been successful, all right, and comparing themselves with those who have been successful, not realizing that everyone had a time when they passed through a season that is, like digging, So because they never envisage that phase, many people walk away. They get tired, all right, and especially, and that's why I said they do not count the cost. The other thing is some people get distracted. They are distracted by the success of others. They are distracted by the grass being greener on some other side, thinking that, okay, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe this thing I'm doing is not for me. Like they will say, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe I can be doing something else. Oh, why spend so much energy doing this? And when I can do something else and achieve a better result in a shorter time. And then they keep going from one thing to the other, not realizing that the principle that undergirds success is whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. So it's quite interesting. And again, I say that because when people don't have, going back to what I initially said about having a strong sense of esteem, a good sense of esteem, one thing they battle with is lack of resilience. All right, they do not realize that when they do not achieve their goals, it's that not achieving the goals at the time does not even invalidate the goal itself, and it does not invalidate their pursuit. It's not saying to them you should stop pursuing this goal. No, it's only testing their resolve and their resilience. So sometimes people are just not resilient enough to keep putting in the work when the result that they are expecting is yet to show up. So these are some of the reasons why people find it difficult to commit and stay consistent with the goals that they are pursuing.
And I think I can relate so much with everything you mentioned, because I think at some point in my life, I and some people around us, I can testify that there are really real reasons why I think a lot of people struggle to achieving goal. I think we have a question from you for you here, but before we go there, out of all the things you mentioned, I think I want to suggest something, and I want to ask if it's really some of the things we should mention and reason why we struggle with goals, which is the socio-economical factor of Nigeria. Do you think Nigeria is really a factor why a lot of people struggle to achieve their big dreams in terms of the economy and the kind of environment we have in a country like Nigeria? Do you think it really has a kind of effect on us?
Well, I think the economy will definitely have an effect because it's more like asking if the soil has an effect on the seed. It does. The environment in which anything is planted has a great effect on it. There are limitations in our environment. If at all, the fact that you don't even have infrastructure, good internet, and you're creative, already it kind of adds to the challenges. That's like, normally there will always be challenges, but you understand the limitations kind of add to the challenges. So it's more like normally there will always be fences, but now the fence is higher.
It's higher in Nigeria.
Yeah, it's higher. That's the truth. It's higher. But what is more important is the mindset with which you approach it, right? If you have the right mindset, there is no height of challenge that you cannot surmount. And that's why the Bible says, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The big question is whether you are really willing to tap into the greater in you, or you are willing to, or you are looking at the challenge and saying, I can do nothing about it. You understand? So there is no situation that the human spirit can surmount. The big question is whether we're going to tap into the power, the strength of our human spirit, or we're going to look at the situation and give up. I mean, two examples from the Bible. The man who was paralyzed at the pool of Bethesda says, there is no one to help me, and that's why I'm here. In 2 Kings chapter 7, we see 4 lepers who had a very similar situation, but they told themselves, why do we sit here till we die? Come on, if we go to the city, there is hunger there. But if we go to the land of Syria, maybe they can even spare us, or last they will kill us. So let's go get the chance of survival. And they decide to take a step, right? So one person takes a step and goes from 0 to hero. The other man stays on his spot and stays there for 38 years, expecting that someone will come. So it's the mentality with which we approach us that makes the difference.
I wanted to ask another question, but we might be stretching that, because I wanted to say the man at that pool, the man was in the advantage. Can we say it's his fault? Just like an average Nigerian can be disadvantaged. So can we say it's their fault?
So I say it like this: you are not as disadvantaged as you think, all right? Maybe you are disadvantaged, but you're not as disadvantaged as you think, not as disadvantaged by your thinking. You are disadvantaged by your thinking because your thinking, the way you think about the situation is, I mean, how you see determines what you see, and what you see determines what you do. So no matter how terrible the situation is, like I said, you can, no matter the height, a person with the right mindset will surmount the challenges. And if you have a terrible mindset, right, a poor mindset, the no matter how low that height is, it's still going to be difficult for you to surmount the challenges. All right. Some people who are leaving Nigeria and going abroad and thinking, okay, the grass is greener there, they're going to be able to do some things better and all of that. I mean, check it out. Check it out. It's not going to make any difference in their lives. All right. They are going to have access to basic amenities like, we know, but it's not going to make much difference in their lives. The mentality, the mindset is really what matters at the end of the day. All right. So it's better we examine the facts and not just blame everything on the government. And at the end of the day, we're not working on ourselves. As long as you've seen one, two, three people around you who have succeeded despite the economy, you should understand that it is possible for you. That tells you a lot. That tells a lot about what is possible. Don't just say, it's the government, it's the government, it's the government. Otherwise, you will be modeling the mindset of the man at the pool of Bethesda who simply outsource, his problem. He thinks every other person is his problem without realizing that he himself could be part of the problem. So let us deal with our mindset, and believe you me, whatever the situation is, we'll be able to surmount.
Thank you. So I want us to address the question we have here. It says, how do you check yourself to know when you are still in a phase of supposed little beginning and playing too long in status quo?
Sorry, I didn't get that completely. How do you check yourself to know when you are still in a phase of supposed little beginning and playing too long in the status quo? Okay, so that phase I talk about, there are three things that characterize what I call the digging phase. The first thing is that your freedom is limited. All right. The second thing is that your efficiency is low. That is, inputs compared to outputs. Your input is high compared to your output. Your output is quite low compared to what you're putting in. And the third is that just notice that you're quite lonely because nobody cares, right? Nobody reckons with what you're doing yet, or people don't reckon as much with what you're doing. Just the circle is quite small. The people who look at you, who are giving you thumbs up and all of that, it's quite small, right? So how do you know if so? One of the greatest temptations, right, in that phase is the temptation for entitlement. Entitlement. You are expecting results that you have not put in the work for. That's one of the greatest temptations, right? Think about it like the man who was given one talent, in the parable of the talent, and the guy was expecting that he should have been given more than basically what happens to people when they are in that phase. And because of that sense of frustration, it hinders them from putting in their best in their current endeavor. Whereas, like I told you, the recommendation from King Solomon is whatever your hand finds to do. Whether it's one talent you're given, two talents you're given, five talents you're given, do it with all your might. Because it's the same attitude of doing with all your might when you have one talent that will help you succeed when you have two. It's the same mentality that will help you succeed when you have five. If you cannot succeed with one talent, it's going to be difficult to succeed with five talents. So, how do you know when you are, check the way you're thinking, what your expectations are? Check your expectations. Have you been able to properly manage your expectations? In order to say, okay, even if I don't get the kind of results I want, I will keep giving my best. And Have you been consistent with doing that? Right? Because if people have not been consistent with doing that, they will remain in what I call the poverty cycle. They remain in poverty cycle. They keep thinking they deserve more, I deserve more, I should be doing more, and all of that. That kind of thought only frustrates their current endeavor. And that's what I'm talking about. So you know that, okay, you are beginning to grow out of that phase when, regardless of the outcomes, you choose to put in your best. One of the ways I say it is look at what I call the 6 stages of mastery. The first stage is passion. And that stage of passion means you are curious enough to learn, to understand, all right? Because the moment you are passionate about something, you're going to be experimenting. You're not expecting that all the results will come at the same time, but you're going to be getting more knowledgeable about that thing. You're going to be experimenting. You're going to be doing, you're just there for the fun of it, in quotes, not for the final end result, like not for the money as it were. You don't even mind offering your services for free just to test the quality and the feasibility of your ideas, right? The next stage now is now the stage of proficiency, where you can realize that by reason of passion, you've gotten so good at this thing. You're now good at it, you can stamp your authority on it, right? The third one is the stage of prolificity. Prolificity means that you can do so much in a short time. And then it means that you now have the understanding, you've gained mastery of the tools, the structures, the routines, the things that you need to develop capacity to do a whole lot, to do in volumes. What someone else can just do single on their time. Number four is that you know how to execute at the highest professional standards. All right. So by the time you know how to, you are passionate about something, you are proficient at it, you are prolific at it, you are able to execute as a professional to the highest standards, the next stage will open up inevitably. Number five, which is profitability, your ability to organize, to package, and to communicate the value of what you are doing in such a way that people are pay, they can see the value and they can pay for it. That's the stage of profitability. So oftentimes, what people want to get to is the stage of profitability, where, like they say, iṣẹ́ kékeré, owó ńlá. That means little efforts, great results, right? Little efforts, great money, and all of that. But before you get to that stage of profitability, there are other ladders that you have to have climbed. And you must be able to ask yourself, am I proficient? Am I prolific? Am I passionate? Am I a professional at this thing? For people who are getting the kind of results that I really want to get, all right? Can I deliver at that their level? So these are questions that we must ask ourselves, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we end this session, because I don't want to take a lot of your time, one of the things we appreciate so much on this platform is storytelling, and because we believe it's kind of give us the touch into reality and how principle works. So we don't know if you have any story you can share with us around you achieving a particular goal, what it cost you, and everything that surrounded it to the point that you were able to make that goal reality. If it's a story of a goal or a project you had to do and you couldn't achieve you achieve your goal, some of the mistakes you learned on the way, and how you're able to manage the effect that comes with having to drop having to drop a project and not doing it again. I don't know if you want to pick any of the two or tell us something about the two as we round up the
I can't
session.
even say one, two, or three, I can't start pointing at goals as it were, but I think for me, the most important or significant journey I was taking recently is in building my business. And everything I have explained here are things that I have played out in the journey of building my business. All right. When I started out, after I left my paid employment, it wasn't easy. You know, I I had to endure it. I started writing, media and publishing company, you know. Even though I was not charging so much, but I had to put in the work. I kept advertising. I used to send WhatsApp broadcasts. Unlike now, you don't even see me sending WhatsApp broadcasts anymore. But there was a time where I was sending WhatsApp broadcasts like almost every day, wanting to do faces, and I wasn't even getting the patronage I wanted as at then. But I kept doing it. It's a matter of consistency, right? You know, and during those days, believe you me, I was very broke. I was broker than butter.
But you're still
I
looking fresh anyway, so it wasn't obvious to you what.
thank you. Interestingly, I've more than 10x. You see, the joy of it is that by just being consistent, I have learned the small things that makes the big things work. And that's why I'm not even sending broadcasts as it's where I just get all the referrals and recommendations to keep me profitable, you know. Um, Over the years, I've learned the importance, the power of a track record, just by learning and delivering your best work. I continuously improve. Over the years, I've more than 10x, you know, the my charge from my original charge. I've more than 10x it, more than, you know. And that because I have, number one, stayed consistent. And I stayed consistent even when I had nothing, no naira, no kobo in my pocket. There were days when my last card was what I used to purchase, data, just to ensure that I could access the internet. All right. And even at that, I kept working. There was a time, even I was running a, media and publishing company. There was a time I started selling books. All right. I went from publishing books to selling books just to ensure that I can make ends meet and not be a burden to anybody. All right. I did all of that at the time. I had to get my hands dirty. Like I said, it's not about what is available, it's about what is possible. And sometimes what is possible means getting your hands dirty. I really had to get my hands dirty. Sometimes it wasn't that easy for me. Oh, I'm now a bookseller and all of that. It didn't matter. I got into the right places where I needed to sell my books. I sold books at five-star hotels in Lagos. I sold books at Radisson, at Eco Hotel, at Oriental, at Sheraton. I did all of that at different times, right? You know, um, and then that was my digging stage, right? And I kept, like I said, improving myself. I kept meeting people. I kept training myself. I kept asking myself, what new things going on in my industry? I wanted my company to stand out such that any of our publications can stand the test of universality, meaning that wherever in the world you take any of our publications to, they must be global standard. Right? Someone in Europe, someone in America should be able to look at a book published by Scribe Tribe Africa and say, wow, this is brilliant. This is nothing short of excellence. So I kept on studying the standards because I didn't like what I see in the local scene. And God has helped me over the time, right? I did that. Been able to achieve that over time. God has been faithful, and because people see that we're doing what we set out to do, they keep us as their go-to publishers, right? From writing to the editing to the design to the printing and all the other post-publishing services. They always want it scribe, and they recommend us to their colleagues, to their peers, and to their network. And that's how I've been able to build my business. But it didn't happen so fast. As a matter of fact, in the first year of my business, I can recall I got just one. one contract, just one. And how much could that one cater for, right? It was a whole long journey. One. So you can imagine I went broke. All right. So I started in 2017. Between 2017 and 2018, I got just one sensible contract. The rest were just write an article here and do it for me. I offered my services for free at different times. I don't even want to go into all of that. Between 2018 and 2019, maybe just a few more, right? So from 2019, it began to come in trickles. And from 2020, I began to get profitable. By 2021, yeah, I was comfortable. 2022, 2023, the business has taken a whole, a whole new turn, where things work. That's what I can say. But, during that time when I wasn't making anything serious, as it were, where I was really broke, I had to I had to understand what it means to really build a platform. Because a business is a platform. Once the platform is built, once the platform is built, every other thing becomes, that's it. So it takes a whole lot to pioneer a platform. That's something I've come to understand. But if you can stay consistent, if you can continuously improve at what you do, if you can be passionate enough such that the lack of results, as it were, does not deter you. If you can pace yourself rather than taking 10 steps every time, if you can take even just one step at a time, one step at a time, instead of expecting to take 10 steps at a time, it's the sky is your limit, and your goals will definitely come to pass.
Wow. Well, thank you for that amazing story of yours. Taking us through how God has been able to help you and how you have been able to stay committed to building a brand. Of course, I can testify that building a brand or pioneering a brand is a lot. It's really a lot. I will let you go in just a few minutes. You mentioned something I feel is very important. I stay close to your piece. I stay close to what you do on social media. So I can testify to some of the big things and the big people you are always privileged to meet with. And one of the questions I want to ask is how were you able to walk through? Were you intentional about your um, networking, and how were you able to walk yourself through to the point that you got to know the top of the top people even in Lagos and in Nigeria? How were you able to build that kind of network and relationship?
Well, I have always been intentional since as far back as I can remember. Um, Even back then in school, in secondary school, you always find me in teacher staff room. So I was already networking with my teachers. you know. So in the university, yeah, I began to hear about the importance of network. That talent is not enough. It's not just about what you do. So I'm privileged to have worked with people who emphasized the importance of networking, of having the right people in your network. So even when I left university, I worked with a Nia designer. Mr. Ni is very strong when it comes to networking, and I learned that I understood that his business, he built it around his network. So his network was critical in building her business. So I understood that I needed to build my own network, and I remember then more of the kind of people I had on my contact, the more of students, you know, people I met during my service here. I knew it was time for me to do something different because these guys could not afford to pay for my premium services. So I knew that even sending broadcasts to many of the young people there was just for publicity. It was not necessarily going to get me profitable. It was never going to be for profitability, right? So, um, One thing I've learned is if you're going to build a great network, number one, you must value people. You must value people. You must understand your endeavor, right? And when you understand that, you must also take responsibility for building the kind of network, meeting the kind of people that you want to meet. All right. What that means is you must be ready to get up and get going. That man at the pool of Bethesda kept saying, I have no man, I don't know anybody, nobody wants to help me. Even the people here are my competitors. Before I jump into the water, they have already jumped, and all of that. As long as you keep seeing people are in negative light, you wouldn't do what it takes, to get them into your circle. So you must be very intentional about seeing people in positive light. Don't go about, receiving rumors or hearing negative things that make you close your mind to the possibility of great relationships. I'm one person who harbors no bitterness towards people. My wife can say it anytime, any day. I harbor no bitterness. It's difficult, even if I hear somebody is a bad person. I just believe that, well, they were bad to someone. Doesn't mean that they were bad to me. It's the truth. I don't know bitterness against anybody, right? And I don't know for what reasons that, whatever played out between the person and who they are reporting as it were. So I don't take that to heart. And then I believe in people. I do my best to add value. Take responsibility in the sense that you don't even expect people to come and meet you. You have to go and meet them because you want the relationship. You must be secure enough to make the first move, right? And in making the first move, you also want to lead with value, not lead with your needs, right? You don't go into a relationship asking for your needs to be met, which was what the man at the pool of Bethesda was doing. He wasn't supporting anybody to get into the pool, but he was expecting people to come and support him. All right, so you need to lead with value, have something to offer. I always want to add value to people, and many times I add value to people without having to ask anything from them because generally, as a person, I'm genuinely interested in people, right? I just have this passion to help people succeed in their own endeavors. So when I need them to help me, when I have to make a bold request, oftentimes I'm not too afraid to do that because I have most likely sown in the seed, in the ground where I want to harvest, right? So that's something I always encourage people to do. Lead with value, add value to others. What again? Have a long-term view when you are working with people. It's not every time you will get immediate benefits, right? So even when you're not getting something in the immediate, it doesn't mean you should stop adding value. Think about it. Joseph approached those two guys in prison. It was him that took the responsibility to approach them. Number two, he led with value. What can I do for you? Your countenance does not look great. Seems like you are disturbed. And then they tell him their dreams, and he interpreted those dreams for them. That's him adding value to them. And he did not request for anything from them. Instead, he said to the guy who was going back to the palace, when you get there, have long term, think long term. When you get there, please remember me. Right? So many times we have to do stuff for people and walk away just knowing that they owe you. Let people owe you. Let people owe you. It's long-term thinking, right? When you need them, it's difficult for them to say no.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm really blessed. I'm sure a lot of people are blessed, and I really want to once again appreciate this honor. Most times when I bring people like you to my platform, I'm always like, oh, well, this brand we are holding a lot because you have to really pay for this value. But I really want to celebrate you once again. Thank you so much.